June 2022, BTS tells the world they're having a break. In the days that follow, $2.2 billion in market value vanishes from HYBE. Every major outlet runs the same headline. BTS is worth $3.6 billion a year to the Korean economy. The implication is clear. This is going to be catastrophic. That $3.6 billion figure is real. But what does it actually measure? And what happens when you open HYBE's actual books? So I pulled up HYBE's regulatory filings, the ones submitted to Korea's equivalent of the SEC, and read what the numbers actually say. What I found is a story the headlines missed. Revenue did not drop, it doubled. But profit, it collapsed. Let me show you the receipt in detail today. This is the report on Korea. Let's dive in. Quick context for anyone outside Korea. Every Korean man has to serve roughly 18 months in the military. Almost no exceptions. The last major exemption debate was literally about BTS, and even they did not get one. Starting in late 2022, all 7 members enlisted one by one. The last one came home in June 2025. Total absence, about 2.5 years. Now here is what the filings say. During those 2.5 years, HYBE's revenue went from about $900 million to $1.9 billion, more than doubled. How? HYBE is not just BTS. It is a portfolio of labels. Think of it like a holding company for idol groups. 17 toured the world. Tomorrow by Together grew their fan base. New artists kept debuting. More artists, more concerts, and more revenue. Sounds like a success story, right? Not if you're reading the bottom line. Operating profit peaked at about $210 million in 2023, then dropped to $130 million in 2024. By 2025, it collapsed to $35 million, an 83% drop from the peak, on revenue that more than doubled. Net income? Negative $180 million. HYBE's biggest year in sales was also its first year of net loss. Let that sink in. So what went wrong? Let's start out with what went right. Concert revenue across all artists went from about $30 million in 2021 to $545 million in 2025, a 17-fold increase, without even BTS on stage. But album sales tell a completely different story. HYBE's total album volume peaked at nearly 40 million copies in 2023. By 2025, that number had been cut in half, under 20 million. Sales from music and albums also dropped from $693 million in 2023 to $550 million in 2025, a 20% drop. Now, if you've watched my earlier video on K-pop economics, you know why this matters. Concerts drive the fan to lock into the platform, but albums are where the margin lives. Once the recording is done, every extra copy is basically plastic and photo cards. It is one of the highest margin product in the business. When concerts surge, but albums collapse, the revenue mix breaks. You're selling more of the expensive to produce product and less of the cheap to produce one. The cost structure confirms it. Cost of sales, or how much to make a buck, jumped from 54% to 65% of sales in just 2 years. So why did albums collapse? Let's look at BTS specifically. BTS-related albums, including solo releases, peaked at 8.4 million copies in 2023. By 2024, dropped to 2.7 million. By 2025, 2.2 million, a 74% decline. No new BTS group album, no BTS concerts to create the fan lock-in to spin that flywheel. And here is what you can't put in a spreadsheet. Each concert does not sell tickets. It creates hardcore fans who go home and buy everything else. Those fans pull in more fans. The cycle compounds. You can measure the album decline. You cannot measure the fandom that was never created. BTS was not just HYBE's biggest artist. BTS was the engine that kept the whole margin structure intact. Without them, HYBE could still fill stadiums, just not the bottom lines. So you've probably heard the headline number. BTS is worth $3.6 billion a year. Let me show you where that comes from and what it actually measures. $3.6 billion, or the yearly economic value of BTS, came from a 2018 report by the Hyundai Research Institute, a Korean economic think tank. And it is a legitimate estimate. What they calculated is what economists call a production inducement effect, the total economic ripple BTS creates across the Korean economy. 1 in every 13 foreign tourists who visited Korea, they came because of BTS. Korean cosmetics exports got a $430 million boost. Food export, another $460 million. Real money flowing through dozens of industries, all because of the BTS effect on Korea's image on global consumers. Think of it like the Super Bowl. Its economic impact is estimated at over $1 billion. But that is not the NFL's revenue from the game. It is the total spending across hotels, restaurants, airlines, merchandise. Related but completely different books. The $3.6 billion measures the footprint, what BTS triggers across the entire economy. The HYBE annual report measures the receipt, what actually flows through the company's books. Both numbers are real. They're answering different questions. But when you want to know what BTS absence actually cost, you need a different lens. You need to open the company's actual books. That is where you see the 2.5 years of declining profit, rising cost, and a machine struggling to run without its core engine. So what will the new BTS actually bring to HYBE in 2026? I tried to replicate the bottom-up model that analysts use. In January 2026, BTS announced their Arirang World Tour, now confirmed at 82 dates across 34 cities, from Seoul to LA to London. In finance, when you want to size a revenue stream you can't directly observe, you build it from the ground up. Price times quantity. It's called the PQ model, and it is the same method analysts use to value everything from oil fields to software companies. Here is how it works for a concert tour. Start with the number of shows. 73 in 2026. Average venue capacity, roughly 60,000. Average ticket price varies by region. About $160 in Korea, over $220 in North America and Japan, lower in Southeast Asia and Latin America. The blended global average, according to analyst estimates, comes to roughly $180. Multiply it through, add on-site merchandise, about $1 million per show, and the total comes to roughly $850 million. One Korean brokerage covering HYBE published their own build-up at 800 million sales for a ticket only, and 1.1 billion for ticket plus merchandise. Sounds fair. But the tour is only part of the story. Based on HYBE's own financials from 2024 and 2025, every dollar of concert revenue historically drove roughly $1.5 in albums, streaming, and licensing on top. Apply that ratio to BTS comeback, and total contribution to HYBE lands somewhere around $2 billion. So that is the math on paper. But what did the comeback actually look like? March 21st, 2026, Seoul, Gwanghwamun Square. If you're not Korean, you might not know what Gwanghwamun means. It is the gate to Gyeongbok Palace, 600 years old, the front door of the Joseon dynasty. The square in front of it is where 2 million Koreans held candlelight to bring down a president. It is where citizens gather when something matters to the nation. It is not a concert venue. It is the symbolic center of Korea. And that is where BTS chose to come back. The event was free, no tickets. HYBE and the Seoul city government expected up to 260,000 people. Netflix agreed to livestream to over 190 countries, the first time the platform has ever broadcast a live concert. And then the numbers came in. HYBE reported around 104,000 attendees. But with 260,000 expected, it fell short of expectations. The stock dropped 15% the following Monday. But here is what the headlines missed. On Netflix, the concert drew 18.4 million viewers globally. It hit number 1 in 77 countries. In Korea, it generated the kind of media cycle that money cannot buy. The number of searches for a trip to Seoul on overseas search engines surged by 155% from the previous week. Hotel reservation rose by over 100%. Analysts did not flinch. One free outdoor concert is not a predictor of a paid stadium tour. Analysts are projecting operating profit to jump 8 to 10 times year over year in 2026. 8 to 10 times operating profit. That is not recovery, that is a resurrection. Ultimately, the value of BTS is not found in a balance sheet, but in the cultural prestige and national pride they bring to the heart of Korea. So what did BTS absent actually cost? Over 2.5 years, HYBE's operating profit collapsed 83%, from 210 million to 35 million. BTS-related album sales dropped 74%. Total album volume for HYBE was cut in half. But the real impact on HYBE is truly incalculable. The flywheel does not just maintain fans, it creates them. Every tour, every album cycle compounds. The numbers you see in the annual report, the album decline, the margin collapse, those are just visible symptoms. The fandom that was never built, the lock-in that never happened, that is the cost nobody can put in a spreadsheet. Sometimes you don't know what something's worth until it's gone. HYBE's annual report was a receipt. Now there's a bigger question this video does not answer. With so much at stake, why would South Korea still send the most valuable cultural asset to the front lines? The answer has to do with a man who has not set foot in Korea for 24 years. That story is up next. Thanks for watching the Koo Report on Korea. I'm Koo, and I'll see you in the next report.